All right, so a couple of things. This is my first time using the GoPro. Dad, since you haven't been able to make it out to see the building, I figured I'd give you a little tour of it. So if from time to time you see my cell phone in the image, I have my GoPro on top of my mountain bike helmet, and I'm using it to film the building. So what I'll try and do is give you a little tour of the building and a little history of what it was beforehand. So when I bought the building, the guy Jay Davler was running 4 different businesses out of here, and we had moved all his stuff to the front half. The building's 18,000 square feet, and I split it into 2 9,000 square foot halves and had Jay renting the front of it for a while. And then this entrance out here, this door, goes back to our loading dock area with stairs, so that's where you enter for repack. This was all shelving and stuff, so I cleared it out and then made like a little entrance. This piece over here is just a piece of plastic that I put on a vacuum router table and put the repack stuff in it. So you have the entrance. Picked up a couple pictures off of Etsy and framed them, and a little sign to let you know where the office and the shop. Now the shop here, this was a mess. There were just power lines hanging, the lights didn't work, and the floor was a mess. I have over 100 hours in the floor alone, but what I tried to do was organize it so it works best for us. So this little office area was the production manager's, Gary's. And then in the back here, we would pre-assemble the control boxes and electronics and keep them. And then all of our materials came in here. Our daily UPS shipments and that was here. And then when we would ship stuff out, we have a little packing station here. We'd bring the metal down to our rack. So I should say at this point too, that the company that bought Repack has already started cleaning it out. So a lot of the machine tools and stuff are gone. But these little shelves here are where we'd keep all of our plate metal, our flat bar, and then our other stock, and then our round stock. Straight ahead here, we had a chop saw that we would use to rough cut our stainless, and in this table, we would use to rough cut our aluminum extrusion, aluminum extrusions here. And then our really big saw was hooked up to this. It was actually both the material and the saw were air cooled, so that hooked it. It sat down here. So we'd bring the material in, we'd set it up here, and then depending on what it was, we had our band saws, our chop saws, we'd cut our material. And then we would store some electronics and frames back here. Over here, first we had our small lathe, which we would do round material under 1 inch. Our big lathe, where we did round material over 1 inch. And then we had our mills that we had set up. So we would bring the material in, cut it to size, bring it over here and machine it. And then we had our part shelves here where we would store all of our parts. We'd start back here by building the frames, and then we'd roll the frames up, and you can see overhead all over we have air and power drops. So we'd start with our bearing tubes and the first stuff to go on the head. And then it just went down the assembly. Over here, we had all of our hardware. We started with 440 and went up to 7/8. And then as the machines got assembled, we would just roll them down this way. These were assembly tables for putting stuff together. And we just roll them into this area. And this would be where we would finalize them. We'd, set them up for the first time and run them. On the other side of the office, we actually have our demo area where we would do the customer sign-offs. Now, this, as I mentioned, power was just a mess. There was virtually no lighting. every light I replaced with these high power LED lights. So we have pretty good lighting here. And so I said we'd assemble them, we'd build them. The heat in here, when I bought the building, there wasn't any heat. It was an old steam boiler. I think it was like 750,000, maybe even 1,000,000 BTU. I'll show you the room. It was huge, but it was steam boiler. So, and we had oil tanks above ground. So I took out the oil tanks. Down here, the two lines I'm looking at coming out of the wall, there are two gas services, one for the front of the building, one for the back. So there's two separate gas bills. And then I put in the overhead heaters for here. And then also what I did was behind that repack sign in that box is a big wall fan that sucks air through straight down here. It's hard to see, but let me see. You can even, nope, can't really even see it, but I'll show it to you later. It sucks air in from the parking lot and we blow it through there. And then I put in these, let me see if I'm seeing them. There we go, these big overhead fans. I put these in. So actually, even without AC, it kept it pretty nice in here. These windows, these are just blocked in with really old air conditioning wall units that didn't work. So I ripped those out and put in the windows back here. And then we, of course, cleaned everything up and painted it. So we would assemble the machines. They would get finished here. Now, let me see, how am I doing on view? Okay, good. One thing I always wanted was a big display wall, stuff where we could show customers, because it was funny how when you'd get a customer in to sign off on one machine and they'd see a product similar to another one they'd ran, a lot of times you get a second order from them. So I wanted to have an area to display some of the things we had done. So I built that whole office area and I built this display wall. Up above it are some photos, and let me see, hard to tell, but up here is one of me in the basement at the house when I started it. So we have all this display stuff. That's an exit out into the alley. That door down there goes out into the main street. This area here is a little over 6,000 square foot. It's like 6,500 square foot. So that's the door where you would come in here and then either go to the shop or to the office. As I mentioned, these weren't here. None of this was here. It was just wide open. So put in this office area, and this is where Dawn sat. It could overlook the shop. Michelle, Dawn's assistant, sat here. There was filing cabinets, our copier, our conference table, which has plans for the building right now on it. And then this is my office. Redid all this block, set it up, did the drop ceiling, put in this window. The window overlooks the neighbors, and I don't know if you can see, hard to tell, but the mini split. I put that in to heat and cool the offices. So